we are living in an agricultural landscape, and I guess we really have to all kind of come together around the table and look at innovative solutions. How can we live in a productive landscape that also values nature? How can we bring balance to that? The farmers are coming to us to run these projects, and that's what's heartening really, is that I think farmers are taking the lead on this.
Hello, I'm Deirdre Glynn, your Teagasc Sustainability Advisor, and you're welcome to the Teagasc Environment Edge podcast, bringing you the latest information, science and opinion to improve farm sustainability. In this episode, I am joined by Maura Brennan from Nore Vision, Nore River Catchment Trust, and we'll be chatting about the River Nore, its shared future and farmers taking action. Nore Vision River Trust in Kilkenny is dedicated to preserving and enhancing the River Nore's natural environment through community engagement and sustainable practices. They work to promote biodiversity, improve water quality and foster appreciation for the river's ecological and cultural significance. Maura, you're really welcome to the show. You work with Nore Vision. Can you tell us a little bit about its origin and how it was formed?
Sure. So Nore Vision, I've been working with Nore Vision now for about a year and a half. And Nore Vision was formed in 2021. It was formally, organised as a CLG. But before that, I suppose the story of Nore Vision really kind of developed over a number of years, where a group of people saw the need for a rivers trust, and to gather people around the notion of what we could do for the River Nore. And the company, the organization was formed then in 2021, and but before that there had been a 3-year consultation process where community group, which was called the Nore Vision, and that's where the I suppose the name Nore Vision comes from, where people were asked the question, what was your vision for the Nore? So that brought together all stakeholder groups, farmers, landowners, anglers, people, who maybe take walks by the river. I suppose we all have a connection to the river, whether or not we're in it or a wild swimmer. We all are connected to our waterways. So it really brought together people to really ask those questions, and looked at what their particular connection to the river was, and to rivers in general, or to the catchment was. And it was a process that happened in Laois, Kilkenny and Tipperary, and down even as far as parts of Waterford, where the Nore reaches the sea. But it really, I suppose, then was founded around themes of heritage, environment and land use, really were the kind of themes that emerged. And from that, the Nore Vision was, a board was appointed and got together and developed a strategy. And we have been, taking actions to implement that over the last number of years. Mags Morrissey was my predecessor. So Mags worked with the Nore Vision for a number of years, and so that's kind of how it started. Now, I suppose it did start a lot longer than that, where groups of anglers who were concerned with the decline of fish numbers had got together, and our chairperson, Bob Whims, would have been in that group, and they would have established a Nore Shore Trust, like in about 2012. So even as long back as that, there was kind of moves towards establishing a rivers trust.
Everybody would have their own agenda, I suppose, when you go into something like that. How would you marry together, or how do you continue to marry together, say, the anglers and the farmers and the walkers? Is that a difficult remit?
I don't find it difficult, really. I think what's interesting around it is the river kind of brings people together, naturally enough. And so there's always a commonality there. And you're right, people would have their own agenda or their own perspective on it. But I suppose what we try to do at Nore Vision is kind of bring all, hold a space where all of those perspectives can speak to each other and can be heard. And that it can be a learning space and an exchange space. And I think that's really how, we all know that the rivers are facing and our waters are facing significant pressures. And I think really the work that we have to do is really learning how to work together and listen to one another and figure out a path together, So yeah, there's certainly there can be sometimes it could be seen as, there being conflicting agendas, but oftentimes I suppose people have, when we work with people who are connected to the river, they're, whether they're swimmers or whether they're farmers, they're all noticing the same things about the river. And, most people genuinely want to make a difference and do what's within their power to do. So I suppose that's what we try to focus on and really stay in a constructive space around, well, if there's actions to be taken, they need to be taken one action at a time, and you just hope then that that action accumulates if everybody is taking small actions. So I think it's also good because when you have people from different perspectives in a room, they can learn from each other as well, and that might be around like appreciating the river in a different way. So like there's, bringing those different groups together. We'll say, if you have some of the citizen science groups, they'll be maybe, looking for where a colony of sand martins are nesting, and that can kind of inform other practices, like it's like, oh well, that bank there is a bit sandy, but it is important, and if there's erosion, how can we protect that, so they can kind of speak to each other as well.
Oh no, absolutely. I agree 100%. Like having worked with you and Mags and Connor and Tori over the last maybe a couple of years, I can see how your ethos and your personality types brings everybody together. They've picked the right people really for the role. Like it's very, very engaging, and you're bringing everybody along with you. And I suppose I've brought a couple of farmers, introduced you to a couple of farmers over the years and they've really taken on board what you're doing, and there's a real sense of pride when they put your actions and our actions as ASAP advisors working together to put these systems in place, like mitigation actions, and they're very proud of it and they show it off to people. I think that's a fantastic legacy to leave as well, Maura, isn't it?
It is, and I think you hit the nail on the head, Deirdre. Like, it is that collaboration and multidisciplinary approach that, that's working, really. It's when we work with the likes of yourself or with, Law Pro and their catchment scientist team, and you're going out as a team. I think, and the farmer feels like they're kind of leading that. And that, I suppose, the projects that we've collaborated on, the great successes have actually been that they've been led by the farmer, and I think that's kind of the way forward, really. And I suppose how we would see Nore Vision is it's exactly that. We can kind of create a space to bring those multidisciplinary approaches and bring different agencies and different people together to have those discussions and see how we can work together. And but it has been, I mean, it definitely, when you see people taking kind of ownership over projects and feeling that pride and sense of achievement in them, I suppose it's a good, you kind of know maybe you're facing in the right direction then as well, and like I suppose it does feel though at ways that we're really only at the start of this work, and the Nore Vision is about 4 or 5 years old, so we're a young organization, and so we're kind of finding our feet, in the sense of, it does take any project with regards to the river and the water, it can sometimes be slow from the moment of conception and design to kind of getting it shovel ready or making things happen on the ground. It does take a bit of time, and part of that is obviously part of it is kind of around building relationships with the farmers, with the landowners, with community groups. And but also, you want to know you're doing things, you want to get it right the first time. So
Yeah.
things have to be tested and tried. And sometimes projects do take a bit of lead in time, but I think it's sometimes important to get everyone involved and doing it like that, because there's a lot more to be taken away then from a project when, then people can come and see it as a demo, and hopefully it can be replicated.
Yeah, so it's all about trust, building trust and supporting the farmers and
Yeah.
the citizens through it. So how exactly do you engage with the community? Is it through events? Is it through meetings? How do you get your message out to people, Maura?
I suppose it's a bit of both. We would like you were saying, we have a few members of staff now. So we would, I suppose, we run a schools program where we've been going out to schools, and we're trying to be kind of coordinated in our actions. So I suppose we've been going out to schools in the PAAs and doing a Nore Vision learning program, and that's with the Kilkenny Education Centre and Laois Education Centre. So we've had great support from them. And then we'll also run events in the community around citizen science training. So citizen science, one of our main actions in citizen science is learning kick sampling, and getting communities out to kick sample in their own area. And that does contribute valuable data, which we share with LawPro, but also I suppose it's a way of developing people's water literacy and for them to understand. We also run different celebration events around the River Nore. This last September, we had the Nuena Wild Swims Festival. So basically, we were working with a local artist who had made a film celebrating a group of wild swimmers on the Nuena and their relationship with the river. And so we screened the film and ran some, activities, a day-long activities of learning around citizen science, and also, well-being activities. So I suppose what we're trying to do is engage communities who are, bring together communities of interest who are already engaging with the river, and then also engage new communities, new members of the community who maybe don't think about their connection to the river too much. So we might work with tidy towns groups. We might work with, just run events in local community centres for anyone to join as well, And another initiative which we support across the catchment in June and July is the invasive species management. So we coordinate between different groups. I mean, there are groups of volunteers who, even prior to Nore Vision, Keep Kilkenny Beautiful in Kilkenny City had been taking action to manage the Himalayan balsam in Kilkenny City. And I mean, they really have pioneered that work. And over the years, Nore Vision provided training, specialised training for invasive species with Dr. Amanda Greer. And I guess what that did was really upskill members of the community. And now we work with the community in Kells as well, with community groups in Thomastown and Inistee, Bennett's Bridge. And we get out on the river in about 38 different locations where we clear Himalayan balsam. So we've been mapping that. And I suppose as we're a new organisation, we're just conscious of kind of keeping, mapping, like gathering baseline data so that we'll have something to compare in, years to come, as we build projects that we can kind of measure how we're getting on and measure the success of them. But the Himalayan balsam really gets people, I suppose it's good that people often care about the river, but it's good that they can actually get out and take action, because sometimes people don't know what to do. you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I suppose from that perspective, our Himalayan Balsam project is one that people can get out on the ground and actually take action. And it really does. We have had really localized successes. So while we don't ever expect that we will clear entirely the Himalayan balsam
No,
on the
yeah.
Nore River, when it is heartening when you go back to spaces where people have been working for 5 years and you can see that habitats are returning and that the plant life and the diversity of plant life is returning, and with that obviously comes back the bird species that
Yeah.
that live there. And so it is good that we can take a measure of success from that. So I suppose what Nore Vision is trying to do is really take a catchment based approach to those projects, and join those groups up, even that they feel like they're part of, that people really start to understand themselves as living in the catchment, rather than just what they are doing. What they're doing in their place can have
Yeah.
no impact downstream or upstream. And I suppose that's kind of, we've run a few Nore Vision Community Forum events that brings those communities together, and I suppose that just helps enable an exchange as well, like in terms of shared experience and how they're getting on in different locations with regard to Himalayan balsam, or even we'll say with some of our wild swimmers that have, engaged in our citizen science programs. They might even just, I suppose, share similar stories about rivers being closed during the summer for swimming because of E.
Yeah.
coli and things like that. So it kind of gives an opportunity to share best practice, and to help people understand, even from different sectors.
Yeah, it's an awareness as well, and creating that
Awareness.
awareness.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, so water quality, I suppose, in the River Nore at the moment is a challenge from the perspective of nitrates and phosphates. Now, there's some brilliant work being done by farmers and by you, um, on trying to mitigate some of that, and some experimental work, I suppose, as well. So can you just tell us a little bit about, the kind of projects that you're involved in, or like for example, that you're working with Mark O'Brien up in the
In
Brega, yeah,
Dreamingtown.
in the
Yeah.
Dreelanstown.
Yeah, so the project with Mark O'Brien in Dreelingstown has really just, it's been a really great success in for a few reasons. Mark himself was very, passionate to get the project up and going, and it would have come about really as a collaboration with yourself, Deirdre, and with Law Pros, Jim Croke, catchment scientist, and Nore Vision. So the wetland buffer, that system that Mark has implemented on his farm, was designed by Phelim Harty, and I guess it's now in its third year, and
Yeah,
it's the ongoing monitoring is showing that it's performing well, which is, and what we've been able to do this year is actually replicate that. So Phelim has designed 4 other wetland buffer systems. Again, they're all site specific, so they're slightly different. But really, what they're trying to do is show how nature based solutions can help us protect water quality. And each of them is slightly different. And, implementing them. It's I suppose when I go, we have 4 farmers now, one in Leash, one here in Urlingford, near where our offices are based, and one around Gathabon, and out near Cuffs Grange as well. But
And
I
the
suppose,
fact that they're being monitored as well is fantastic because the farmers have taken the move to put them in. They've taken that jump or that leap of faith.
yeah,
Um,
and it is really, I suppose, it is really when anything, like anything, when they're among the first of them in the country to be happening. So I suppose there is a risk element on the farmer in terms of wondering, is this going to be effective? Will it do the job that it's setting out to do? So for us, the monitoring is, a really important aspect of it. Because I suppose it'll give the farmer the confidence and just to know what is happening and to know if they are working and to understand how they're working. So I guess what we're talking about are a series of ponds that are then vegetated, and the vegetation, I suppose, is it's slowing the flow, and the vegetation is then filtrating them. But really, the idea is to slow the flow. When from the rainwater off the yard and as it makes its way to the stream. So I guess like with nature-based solutions, we're really, I suppose, mimicking what if we lived. If our habitats, or if nature was in a, I suppose, our we've had a reduced habitats and tree cover and wild spaces. So I suppose we're trying to kind of mimic that really, and I suppose other nature-based solutions are tree planting and hedge planting, and they're really important and have a value, I think, on farms as well in protecting water courses. So like I think what was interesting, one thing Mark said was that having the wetland buffer system on the farm has actually has really made him kind of think about water differently on his farm and really highlighted it. So for him, it's had that double benefit of not just doing its job, but kind of making him more aware of water on the farm in general. And I think that's been an important part of it as well. So we now are, I suppose, in terms of water quality, while there's an awful lot of work to do, and everybody is aware of the pressures that we're facing. And I think even when the students we were talking to yesterday in St. Kieran's College rightly answered that, somebody was asking, why is agriculture the most significant pressure on the Nore within this catchment? And I suppose the obvious answer, that it's the biggest land use, so
yeah,
therefore.
absolutely. Yeah.
And, so we are, I suppose, we are living in an agricultural landscape. And I guess we really have to all kind of come together around the table and look at innovative solutions that can, how can we live in a productive landscape that also values nature? How can we bring balance to that? And I think farmers who are taking these methods, the farmers are coming to us to run these projects, and that's what's heartening really, is that I think farmers are taking the lead on this. And we do, with the new Farming for Water EIP, I think it's a really incredible time, because it's the first time maybe that we've had so much investment in water quality, and there's so much potential there for farmers to take these actions. So I mean, we will really need to up our game. But it's very heartening, even hearing your presentation yesterday, Deirdre, and looking at how, when concentrated, coordinated action is taken on a water body, change can be affected, and that the data can back that up. So I think it does take that coordinated, focused action on a water body or in one particular catchment area to really turn it. And then that needs to be maintained, so it really needs to be a big change in practice and how we come at things. And, from understanding, how we're, how our soil, understanding our soil and habitats and how it's all connected really, so I think we do it, those kind of, when farmers are prepared to take those innovations, I think it's really valuable, because it also kind of maybe gives confidence to other farmers to take those steps as well.
Yeah, I think this leadership, especially with the farmers who are actually taking these nature-based solutions at the moment for attenuation, etc., um, they are leading the charge. And it's proving, especially from Marks and the science that's coming from Marks, these buffers are actually working when they're managed really well, and it's fantastic to see as well that, the money and for bespoke measures, even within the EIP, that's available to farmers to put in these buffers, and to think outside of the box as well, because this clean water is a huge challenge for farmers as well. And if it doesn't need to be collected, where does it go,
Exactly.
And if it runs through the buffers, that's a win-win for everybody. So what motivates you, Maura? You're very, very positive. You've got a great mindset. Yeah, is it your background? Are you from a farming setup? What's your situation? What motivates you?
I think in this particular, in uh, uh, I think what motivates me is it feels like, the solutions are there at hand.
Yeah,
And it, in I suppose my background really is in biodiversity and nature-based education, and really just seeing how I think people's connection to nature and spending time in nature, it's as cliched as, what our granny would have said, that just getting out in fresh air solves most problems. And I think for me, really, it is like, I just really feel that restoring our connection to nature really is a solution to many of our problems, be it, sorting the water quality or whatever issue that we're working on. So I think for me, my motivation really is like the solutions are there, and we just need to focus our intention on it. And
yeah.
the solutions are very simple, really. And I suppose it is finding ways to restore that balance with nature in terms of how can we, continue to live in a productive landscape, but restore nature at the same time. So I think that's what motivates me, because I do really think that solutions are there and they're possible. And it just really takes coordinated action and getting people on the same page. And there's not much a group of people can't achieve if they have a shared intention.
Yeah, fully agree. Maura, great work being done by you and your team. And by all accounts, a lot of work to be done into the future with all the plans that you have. So thank you very much for talking to me today.
Thanks for having us, Deirdre, and look forward to all our future collaborations. Thanks so much.
You've been listening to the Teagasc Environment Edge podcast, signpost to farm sustainability. For links, tools and the latest research, head to teagasc.ie and search the Environment Edge. Thanks for listening.